We're a division of R&K Distributing, and we want to welcome you to today's webinar, Personalization. With the holidays around the corner, I know it doesn't seem like that, but it's coming, and we've got dinners coming with Thanksgiving and school starting. We thought today we would focus on lettering, on personalizing items with our lettering. And we're going to look at our different aspects in our lettering, so let's get started. Now I'm going to come in here, and the first thing I want to point out to you, and I'm just going to open a little program to help me here, that most of you are used to watching my webinars, realize I never remember to open it. We're going to mainly be concerned with these three icons here today. That is our text tool, our monogram tool, and our Truetype font tool. So let's just start out talking about text in general. How do we get it? How do we use it? Well, the first thing you do is you put your cursor on the giant T for text and left mouse click. Now the first thing that comes up is it says, how do you want to display your text? Do you want just regular text, circular text, vertical text, or path? We're going to start out just looking at regular text. So I will click on that. And notice that I have an A stuck to my cursor. Now that reminds me, Kathy, you are in text mode in this program. So if you ever wonder where you are, the first thing you need to do is look at your cursor. Now what we're going to do here is I am simply going to left mouse click on screen, and that is going to bring up everything I could possibly do to this regular text right here. And this is just a regular plain straight baseline. Now I could come in here and let's just say we're putting a name on a backpack. So we're going to put Jocelyn on a backpack. In fact, I did that just yesterday. So I've got the name Jocelyn. Now that's the first thing, is you're going to type right in here into your text box the text you want. Now we have well over 150 alphabets for you to choose from. How to choose an alphabet is you drop down with the little drop-down box, and you can scroll through, and we're going to talk a little bit about different types of alphabets we have in here. Now, one thing that I love about this program is a lot of times we wonder, well, how would this alphabet actually look the best? What sizes can I use? Because that is a big deal in what you're going to choose. I can simply put my cursor over the alphabet preview. Notice it shows me every character available, and it also gives me a minimum and a maximum height that this text will look good in. So again, that minimum and maximum is in inches and in metric, so you can see both sizes there. Now this Jocelyn, it says it'll look good up to an inch tall. Well, I'm going to go ahead and actually, I don't want her name real prominent on her backpack, because with children these days we want to have their name so we can identify it, but we don't want people that don't know them to say, hey Jocelyn, come on over. So I put this along the top of her backpack on one side of the zipper, and I only had about a 2-inch width. So I'm going to make this 0.75. So now I'm going to decide the height of my lettering right here. Now spacing, this is the space between each individual letter. The line spacing is if I had multiple lines of text, what kind of spacing do I want between the lines? And why is that important? If I have the letter G above a letter H, a lot of times they'll run into each other. So I would want a little bit more line spacing, so when that G hangs down below the line and the H extends above, that they don't run into each other. And then the width is just what it is. Now I can change the width either by dragging, or I can change the width by percentage. So with this here, I'm going to apply. Now here I have Jocelyn. You can see this is 3/4 of an inch tall. And it is, if I look at the top, it is 3.31 inches wide. Now to know where your sizing is, I want you to look right here. Now I want you to notice something. I said I wanted my lettering 3/4 of an inch tall. How come I'm at 0.92? That's because Jocelyn is one of those names. I want you to notice the Y is going to extend below the line. So that is going to give me extra size in it. So it's perfect for the lettering, but see, I knew I had a 2-inch space. So always check when you're picking your alphabet and your space, look at what's going on here. Now, if these were all caps, it would be 0.75. If I didn't have a Y in here, we would be fine. But because of this extending below the line, that is going to change this, and that's something to realize when you do your size of lettering. Now here I've got Jocelyn. Now I'm going to put this on a backpack. Now the first thing we're going to have to think about when we're going to put this on a backpack is hooping it. Now with that backpack, I am going to actually hoop some wet and stick. And I'm going to use wet and stick, and I'll probably use that, or I can use perfect stick cutaway. Now you can use a tearaway, but on a backpack sometimes they're not as, don't have as much cloth in them, they're more vinyl-ish. So sometimes I would rather have a cutaway back there so that I don't damage the backpack in any way. So we have our new perfect stick cutaway that is a wonderful choice, and I stuck it down. I hooped that and I stuck it down. Of course I used a topper and I stitched this out. Now I'm going to show you a 3D rendition of this. Now remember, this is a 3D image on a 2-dimensional screen, so don't get too crazy when you get this 3D look and decide that, oh, look, I've got a couple of gaps right here. You do not. This lettering will turn out perfect. Now the only other thing I would have done on that is, of course, I would have come in and I may have used File and gone to Save to Sew. Remember, Save to Sew is always there. I have stitched quite a bit on backpacks, so I'm very comfortable with how I do them. But if I didn't know how to do a backpack, I would have come in here and tried to find a fabric that was close to that and used my Save to Sew features, so it would have let me know what stabilizer to use and maybe if I needed to adjust the density or the underlay on my lettering. Now with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn this off. I'm going to reselect this. Now the only thing that I really am not crazy about here, and I'm going to go ahead and go back to the T, notice I had lost all of my control points. If I select this lettering, this is just selected like I selected any design. I have no control points on it. But if I come back up and left mouse click on the T, I want you to notice all my control points are back. Now let's look at these just a little bit, because if we're personalizing, a lot of times we want something to look a little bit different than everybody else's. So I want to talk a little bit about your control points. Now the first thing is I really think the J looks like it's out in Never Never Land. I know that there's the same amount of space between here and here, but I just don't like the look. So I can just, by grabbing that blue diamond, I would move that just a little bit because I think that's a better visual. But I could also do some fun things with this. Maybe I wanted Jocelyn to be a little different on her backpack than everybody else's. So you can see I can have some cool looks just by coming in here and using the control points. Now I used my black circles, which are to elasticize or stretch your lettering. If I had used a corner, I could kind of pin it type, do like a pin it type lettering. So you can see you can come in here and you can have some fun, especially if you were going to customize it to maybe the back. Let's say we were putting her name on the back of her backpack and her backpack has a rounded top. I might want to kind of follow that in here, and you can customize that very simply by playing. Come in here and play until you think it'll look good the way it goes across the top of that backpack. Now we also have a blue circle that would allow you to rotate, and it doesn't matter which type of baseline we're using, all these control points are the same. Also, if you notice right here at the bottom right-hand corner, what if I needed this name to be a little longer? I still can't have it any taller, but I want it longer. I can go ahead and spread this out some so it might fill that better in the back of that backpack. So you get the idea there. I also have at the top left-hand corner, I can change the size, height, and width proportionately. Sometimes we want to make it longer without being taller or shorter without being taller, but sometimes we just need to make it larger, both height and width. And then I have a little diamond here at the bottom. And this is kind of to italicize or lean your lettering. So just know that you've got a lot of fun with customizing and playing with your lettering. Okay, so we've got Jocelyn on a backpack. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's come in here and let's go to our text. And I'm picking the circle this time, and we're going to left mouse click on screen. Again, there my text comes up. Now I want you to notice you have a top and a bottom. You have upper and lower. So I could come in here and put Floriani lettering. Now I can come in and look at the different alphabets that I want to choose from. Now I want you to look through here a little bit because I just want to explain a few little things. Now you're going to see some alphabets in here that have a open red 0 by them. That means these alphabets have three or four options on them. So we'll look at those in a little bit. We're not going to look at that right now. We're going to move on down. And then I want you to notice you've got alphabets that will give you a size. Brio is 7 millimeter. We're looking at small lettering. You'll notice we've got lots of small lettering. In fact, we have 13, I believe, small lettering fonts. Here's Linda, line block, line small, 3 millimeter, 4 millimeter. I want you to be aware that they're in here because sometimes we need small lettering. We've got a small, let's say I'm going to pick this port just for sake of argument here, and I'm going to apply that. Now let's fit this to screen. Let's say I was doing a very small patch to put on to customize something. I want to put Floriani lettering and I want to put some kind of little design in the middle. And I want to make several of those to customize. But we have the Girl Scouts. My granddaughter is a Girl Scout, and we're always doing little patches to customize their vests. Now in here, I would come in first, and my radius is too big, so I'm going to fix my radius. So there I've made the radius smaller. So I can even do very, very small lettering. This is a very nice feature to have, to be able to do all these small alphabets. And remember, we continue to add these alphabets in at no additional cost to you. Remember, at Floriani, when we add these things, it's always free. So we've got micro lettering fonts in here always for you for when you do need to customize. Now here's another one. A lot of times on the outside sleeve, you've got the short sleeve shirt along the bottom on the outside of your arm. I would have Quinn number 42. When my boys played sports, my husband's shirts were all embroidered with their number and their name. They all said Quinn, and then it would have their football number. Well, this is where we're going to start looking at maybe some of this micro lettering, because you don't make these things 1/2 inch tall. They're usually 3/8 of an inch, somewhere in there tall along the edge of the hemline on that shirt. And again, you would use this wonderful micro lettering. Now I wouldn't have done it in the circular style. I would have just done it straight, put Floriani's no-show fusible mesh on the back of that, topped it with water-soluble topping, and stitched it along the edge of that. Also on the collar, when you have a turtleneck, a lot of times we'd wear the turtleneck shirts to the games because it was cold. Well, right along the turtleneck, we'd go ahead and put our boys' sports number. Again, you're going to use your no-show mesh. Now that would have probably been, we made that about 1/2 inch tall. That could be a little larger. Because remember now, when you're customizing, when you're personalizing things, you've always got to think about also the size of your lettering. So always keep in mind that it can't be so small that it can't be read, but you can't have something oversized where it does not look professional. Because our goal is to always have a professional looking text. Now let's move on here. Let's get another baseline. Let's come in here and use our vertical baseline. Now this is something I am very happy to have. I wanted vertical for a long time. Vertical lettering is wonderful for personalizing. It looks great when you're putting it down, just so it doesn't look like everybody else's. Put it down the side of a bag. It looks so nice to have that vertical text. If you're putting a name on with a design, put the design, and instead of putting the name across the top or underneath, put the vertical text down to the left-hand side of it. It looks very nice. It's different from everybody else's. Let's come in here and look at our text, and let's come in and let's look at some of these that I skipped earlier. Let's go to Deanna here. Now notice I told you it's got the little red circle. I'm going to apply Deanna. Now I want you to notice that style is default. But notice if I drop this down, I can do Deanna in a run stitch. Apply that. So I could have a nice run stitch font. I could come down and say make that a satin. I can apply that. Make that a nice satin stitch font. And I can say do the regular default and put a run around it and apply. So you're outlining those letters. So I want you to be aware when you're customizing that you're not even necessarily just with what we've told you. You've even got some options within the font itself. Now we love having this vertical text. Like I said, it looks very nice having vertical text. And let's put this in lowercase. Floriani. Now of course you've still got, you could move if you wanted to change the spacing in between. Now I'm changing the kerning by just touching one letter. But let's say I wanted to change the line spacing between all of them. Of course I could change that right here because that technically would be line spacing because now it's in between each letter this way. So I could have changed the line spacing and moved that spacing all at once. So by customizing using vertical text is really a lot of fun, and it's very, very different from everything that everybody else is using. Now let's come back in here. Let me talk to you just a little bit about our path. Now I picked the path, and when I click, it's going to bring up all the options. Now I'm really thrilled with having these paths already pre-made for me. Now I can edit and adjust them. I can use them as a starting place and then move on. But it is really nice to have them already started for me. Let's come and let's just pick a corner. I haven't picked a corner yet. Well, and I wanted a new piece of paper. Let me try that. Let's go back into my path. I don't want to add it to the page we already had. And let's pick a corner. There it is, and it's got the A because that's what's typed in here. So I'm going to type in Happy Thanksgiving. So we've put in Happy Thanksgiving here. And I don't want it to be an inch tall. I'm going to probably make this probably about 1/4 inch tall right now, maybe a little more in a minute. Now I'm going to look here and I'm going to look and say what I like to see, what is my alphabet I want. Now I can just simply using my down key, my down arrow, I can kind of page through and get an idea what different fonts look like. So I could go through and so till I found one I liked. I'm going to pick Calvington and I'm going to apply that. Now we're going to fit this to screen, and we're going to see that this is not working. Oops, didn't hold my size is what I didn't do. There we go. Now I've got my Happy Thanksgiving. All right, so let's come back and let's select it, because we want to play with these things. When they come in and they look a little strange, we don't want to lose what we're doing here. So now I can come in here, and with this kerning icon, I can move this down. Now I like that. Now, but I want my Happy closer to my Thanksgiving, so I'm going to go ahead and select it again. Now, I'm going to show you something. I could actually come in here and I'm going to come before, and I just added some spaces in before Happy. Okay, so before the word Happy, I just added in a couple of spaces and moved it closer to my Thanksgiving. Now you can come in here, you can move these around, you can play with them, you can work with them. I could come in here and I could kern everything and move it some more. I want Thanksgiving. Actually, I'm going to move it this way. And I could come in here and I could play with Thanksgiving. Happy. I can move it down. You can do all kinds of playing here. Whoops. I'm taking the whole thing. There we go. But we can come in here using these baselines that we have created, and we can start figuring out what we want to do, how we want to move our lettering around, how do we want to customize this. Now I could come in here and bring a little design in here and put that on a corner of a napkin. So no, by having these baselines that we can play with, we can do a whole lot in here. Now let's hang on, right here. Before I type in Mary, I'm going to put in a space, my space bar. And I'm going to type in Merry Christmas. Okay, now that I've got Merry Christmas in here, I'm going to move this, and I like that. I like how I've put Merry Christmas in there, only I can't spell Mary, can I? Yes, I did. I spelled it correctly. Okay, we've got that. We can come in here and say I want to try a different font. Anytime you want to try a different font. Now, notice my size changed. So I'm going to want to change my size here till I like it. And sometimes we just want to play. We may not like something, so we want to play with it until we do like it. And that's the fun of software, is you can just come in and move everything around and have a good time. So you can pick a baseline, and we have several baselines to pick from. So you've got fun, and you can always edit a baseline. If you don't like the baseline you have, you can simply right mouse click on it and edit that baseline. And then this allows me to kind of move and change things a little bit on this baseline as I go. I can play with it and change the baseline. So you can do that as well. Now that is just regular text. Now I do want to talk about a couple of rules in regular text before we move on. And I'm just going to get my plain old baseline here. Talk about customizing again. Now I want to talk about, if we've got, like I say, the holidays coming up, you might be doing some runners, table runners, you might be doing all kinds of goodies. You might be doing, putting a big monogram on a runner for your table or placemats. I want to look at that just a little bit on letters, because a lot of times now we're finding that larger letters are the big deal. So I'm going to apply this. Now this is just a regular little S, and it's only an inch tall. Let me see what my thing tells me. This says that this height of these letters, the maximum is 3.5 inches. Okay, so I'm going to go to 4.5. So I now know that this letter is too big. And the reason it gives me that size is because of the satin stitch. When I measure this satin stitch, I don't want it to be so wide it needs to be a fill. That's the problem here. So if I stitch it out as it is, I've just blown it up in size, but I didn't do anything to fix the fact that it's a satin, then when this stitches out, it is not going to be attractive. It's going to look fine on your 3D, everything's going to look great, but you're going to have a problem when you stitch it out, because a satin stitch should typically not be more than 7 millimeters wide on a knit and no more than 8 or 9 on a stable fabric. So with this satin stitch being so wide, what if I want a giant 4-inch S I'm customizing, and I want to have this giant S? What do I need to do to make this work? Well, what I'm going to do is, with this selected, I'm going to move into a fill. Notice right here in my properties, everything I can do is in front of me. Now this tells me, Kathy, this is a satin. I already know that's not going to work. So what I'm going to do is, if I oversize letters to personalize something, I'm going to have to work with that fill. So now I have several standard fills that I could put this in. And I'm just going to come in here and I'm going to pick a random for right now, and I'm going to apply. Now I know, excuse me, now I know that that is going to stick out without any problem whatsoever, because I have made sure that the letter has the correct fill for the size I've got. And you're going to find a lot of the monogramming now. The monograms are huge. So when you're personalizing and customizing stuff, make sure that you check the width of that satin to make sure that this is going to stitch out properly. And you can check it out in your software, and you don't have to wait until you've ruined the garment or ruined the object you're working on. Let's go ahead and move on. Now the next thing I want to talk to you about is, I do want to talk to you about our monogramming itself. Now with our monogramming, I'm going to select it. Again, an A is stuck to your cursor, and I'm going to left mouse click on screen here. And you can see it comes up in the monogram style. What this has done is it has told the software that these alphabets are going to be stitched out as a 3-letter monogram. Okay, so you can see no matter what I pick, it's going to give you the oversized center letter and the smaller letters on either side. So we could just go through and randomly pick, so you get the idea. That is a monogram. Now you can use any alphabet in our software to create a monogram. I'll show you that in just a moment. But in the monogramming itself, the fonts have been chosen. Walter and DJ have gone through and chosen the fonts that lend themselves best to being monograms. They look the best, they work the best. So know that the fonts that we have chosen for you, we have preset, are all well suited to doing beautiful monogramming. It's got the classic monograms in it, as well as lots of other alphabets that lend themselves to beautiful monograms. Now let's talk about monogramming for a moment. Now in our monograms, you're going to notice that as I'm just going to go down through my list. I'm going to use my down arrow. Let me use my up arrow first. And I want you to notice Camellia, Christina, Classic, Colonial. Now when I got to Colonial, do you notice that the preview of that monogram has beautiful embellishment around it? We have several monograms here for you that have some built-in embellishments. I'll show you how to use those. But just so we're just going to page down a little bit and look, so you can just see some of the classic stuff we work with. So you get the idea. Let's go ahead and go into Colonial. Now with the Colonial monogram selected, notice the decor box is available. If I left mouse click on the down arrow, all of this decor has been designed to go with that font. All the embellishing will look good with the font you have, this Colonial. So when I apply that, you notice it's got a pretty embellishment around it. That's its little 3D look. Come back, let's select it. Let's go back selecting it again. Let me hit my monogram to get all my control points back. And I could come in and say, well, I didn't want that one, that specific embellishment. Maybe I wanted it less embellished. Didn't want it all the way around. So now you can see there are more embellishments in here for this specific alphabet. Now monograms typically, traditionally, the center letter is your last name. If you're doing a monogram for a single person, just a person, not a couple, the A would be the letter of their first name, and the C would be their middle. So in mine would be Lita, Quinn, Kathleen. Mine is LQK, apply. Now if I were doing that for me, now if I'm creating a monogram to go on a towel for a couple, it's going to be the L would be the initial of his first name, and the K would be the initial of her first name. So with George and I, this would be George and Kathi Quinn. So when you're doing monogramming and personalizing towels, placemats, anything that's for a couple, that is the traditional way. Does it mean you can't do it different? Of course not. We are the creators, we're in control. But I'm just giving you some traditional rules. Now also, when you're putting monograms, and this is big with gifts, your monogramming towels is always a lot. You want to make sure that when you monogram a towel, that the monogram on a towel, on the bath towel, is about 2.5 inches tall. But when you come to the washcloth, you want to make sure it's only about 1.25 inches tall, because you have to realize as you're going down in size that traditionally the standard is that the monogram size goes down. Now I did mention earlier that people don't seem these huge monograms. You're going to put it on a large bag. We're going to put it on a purse, and that is real big right now. Let's come in here and let me pick a monogram. Let me see. I really like Devonshire. I think that's a pretty one. We've got such pretty monograms in here. I just saw one I hadn't noticed before. How did I flipped past it too quick. Oh well, we'll just come on down and we'll pick Puffy. We're going to try Puffy. So here comes Puffy. Now Puffy's in, and I don't really like how Puffy's positioned because, now remember, sometimes because of your letters, I have a Q which always has a tail, and I have a G with a tail, so it makes it kind of, sometimes when I'm putting monograms in, I'm going to need to adjust it to look good depending upon your combination of letters. Now with this in here, and I've already told you there's people that just think these monograms need to be huge, I'm going to put this on a purse. So we're monogramming a purse, and she wants at least a 3-inch monogram. So I'm going to come in here and give it the 3 inches. I'm going to apply. Now with this done, okay, so now that I've changed the size, I'm going to kind of make it where it looks good, because see, this tail throws everything off for me. So I'm going to put it where I like it, and of course I could select the G and the K, and I could align the bottoms, horizontally would be fine. But now that I've got this here, I need to check. How wide is this Q now? Well, I'm good. This one didn't get too big. It still says I can use a satin. So we're going to let her even have a bigger one. Let's let her have a 5-inch monogram. Let her have a bigger one. Again, you're going to have to maybe adjust your lettering to look right. There we go. So I've got my lettering where I like it. Let's go ahead and measure that. Okay, now it says use a fill. So I am going to make sure that I come in here into the fill and I fix this large monogram. So don't forget to come in here if you've put a large monogram on something and you need to fix that fill so that it stitches out beautifully. Now these are great things to know because I've made all the mistakes. That's why I can tell you with such certainty Let's go back to text regular, and let me show you what I would do if it was an alphabet that was not available. We had not put it into our monogram. And like I said, we put the ones in there that lend themselves to monogramming the best. But you just might have an alphabet you really like in here. You may love this donuts right here. So what I'm going to do in there is I am going to go ahead and I'm going to put in a G. And I'm going to go ahead and tell that to be 1/2 inch tall. I'm going to go ahead, and I've done that. Now I'm going to click on screen again. I'm going to put in a Q, and I'm going to tell that to be 3/4 inch tall. All right, now I'm going to click on screen again, and I'm going to go ahead and put in the K for Kathy, and that was 1/2 inch tall. Now that I have created my 3 letters, I would go ahead and I'm going to zoom in. There we go. And I will just select my letters and move them. Here's my G. I'm just selecting them and moving them. And I lost my K over here. Now once I've put these all together and I've created the monogram out of the alphabet that may not have been intended for the monogram, what I'm going to do is I am going to select all of them, all items, and I'm going to group them. So right up here at the top I have a group icon that I can left mouse click on, and now it doesn't see it as 3 individual letters, it sees it as one piece. So now I can come in here and resize them at the same time proportionately and here and go ahead and work with them as if this were created for a monogram for me. So know that you can come in and use any alphabet you want for a monogram, but you are going to have to set it up. You are going to have to oversize that Q. Now let me show you something else that I could have done. I'm going to come in, get that regular text, and I'm going to do GQK, and I'm going to apply that. I could just take this Q and oversize it. Alrighty? Then I can go ahead and move these around however I want, because I can, with my control points, I am able to move my letters individually. So if you just wanted to do it by the visual, how it looked, now I was doing it specific. I wanted these letters 1/2 inch tall, and I wanted my Q 3/4 inch tall. But you can also put in all your letters using your control points. Once you grab that orange box, that orange, the orange square, you can now move this. Now you are in control of what you want to do to that letter specifically. Okay, so you get the idea. You can create it by size, or you can type them all in and just oversize your center letter, and there you do have a monogram. Now let's move along a little bit more. And I want to talk about now to import our Truetype fonts. Now we have lots of fonts for you. We've created all kinds of alphabets for you. We continue to add alphabets. We'll always continue to give you more free. However, sometimes there's just stuff you want to use that's not there. So we're going to look at import Truetype fonts. This is artwork. Now, excuse me, let me explain this. With Truetype fonts, this is a vector image. It is wonderful, perfect vector artwork, which is great, which means you're going to have beautiful, clean lines. So I can come in here, and let's say we've got I'm trying to think of some. We're going to do a B for just B. My mind went blank. I I'm going to put the number 1. Let's see how this works. I'm going to use the number 1 and I'm going to select. Now notice in here there's lots and lots and lots of fonts in here, and not all computers have exactly the same ones. My software did not install these fonts. It's the fonts that are installed in my computer because I have Microsoft Office, I have different programs. So your Truetype fonts come from other places besides our program. So I can look through here and I can say, what would I like? Well, I can look and say, I really like, I'm just going to pick Cooper here. And I'm going to say OK. Now I'm going to say OK again. Now this comes in as an artwork. This is the number 1 for Cooper. Okay, and so we're going to pretend I like this number 1. I don't, but we're going to pretend I do. Now this is artwork. How do I know that? Well, look in your properties box. It's telling you right here, Kathy, it's artwork. And it is filled in artwork. Now I could deselect that and just see the outline of the artwork, but it's going to come in as a filled piece of artwork so you can see it well. Let's pretend this is baby's first birthday. And I want to put this on the onesie as big, or the kid's shirt, as big as I can possibly get it. So I'm going to go to transform, and I'm going to figure 4 inches is probably going to be that kid's limit. Now notice, before I do anything, I'm not going to apply. I'm going to click off. I'll show you why. When I go to transform, my maintain aspect ratio box was not selected. I want this to maintain its aspect. So I don't want it over 4 inches tall, but I didn't want to have to do the math to get it right at 97%. So I let the software do that. And something else I want to point out that I think is a really nice feature when you're working with our lettering is right here you've got inches and millimeters both. Sometimes when you're working with tiny lettering, it's easier to think in millimeters. When I'm working with overall size, it's easier for me to think in inches. Notice you can change back and forth right here without going in and changing your grid system or your measurement system. You can change it right here. Now I'm going to apply that to change the size. Now what I want to do, now I know that at 4 inches tall, this is going to be a heck of a lot of stitches if I do that. So I might want to turn this into an applique. So I'm going to, with that selected, that artwork piece selected, I'll fit it to screen. I'm going to come to my wonders at the bottom. And my green bush is my applique. So I'm going to click, and I have now created an applique. Now I could go ahead and leave this applique with this satin stitch. I could go ahead and pick a blanket stitch if I wanted a blanket, or I could have some fun with a motif stitch if I had wanted to, maybe it's a little girl and I want to put flowers around that one instead of just a plain old satin stitch. I could come down, look through until I saw something I thought would look cute on a little girl, and I could pick that and apply. So I could use that for applique. Another thing that's a lot of fun, and I'm really loving it, is our applique stitch. Now applique stitch, I can use a leather look, I can use a pretty sparkle. If it's her first birthday, I probably want to use some of our pink sparkle. And I'm going to come in here and say the applique stitch, which is my blue bush. And I'm going to come along here. Let's just see here. Let's slide along. I'm going to pick just a fun color. And I want to also, there we go. Now notice that, I should have explained that, and I apologize. Notice when I went to change the color and I left mouse click on a color, so let me select, and left mouse click. It's asking me, do I want to change color 1, 2, 3, or 4? What is that? Well, 1 is my placement line, 2 is a tack down. So you can see over here, let me just put it out clear for you here. 1 is your placement line, 2, 3, and 4. So let's look at this. Our first is our placement. Color 2 is our tack down. Color 3 is our trapping line, and color 4 is our finish. So whenever you come to applique or apply stitch, know that if you want to change that final color, it's going to ask you which one are you changing. Now that we've changed this though, let me go ahead and select it back. I want to come in here and look at my fabrics, and I want to put my pink sparkle in there. So this is what I want her little onesie to look like. Obviously, I don't like this pink that I picked for the outside, but you're with me. So I can come in here and I could turn, using Truetype Fonts, I could have just turned that into an applique or an apply stitch. Or I can I can come in here and select something different. Okay, okay. And now I have brought Floriani in. Now again, this is simply artwork. Now I've got a lot of options when I bring in artwork. What if I wanted that to just be a simple runaround? I'm going to come down to my one-click wonders, and I picked a run stitch. So now I'm going to stitch Floriani out in a run stitch. I could say, well, maybe I would like that to be a motif. Well, I already know this is way too small to be a motif run, but we'll pick it just so you can see what I'm talking about. Way too small for a motif run. Now if my lettering was larger, I could, you know, it could support that. I could come in here and say I wanted it to be a steel stitch. Why you'd want a steel instead of just making it an applique at that point, but I could make it a nice steel stitch. I could come in here and say make this an auto satin. Now I pick auto satin because I know it's going to look at the angles and everything, and it's going to be a beautiful satin stitch alphabet here. I could go ahead and select all of this and say, you know what, I want it to be a standard fill. I could fill it. I could make it a fancy fill. Let me 3D that so you can see some kind of fancy fill in there. You could select all this. You could make it a motif fill. You've got full control over how to play with this in here. What does this have to do with customizing or personalizing? Because how much more personal can you get than not only do you pick your lettering, you pick how you want your lettering to stitch. There are lots of times that it would be nice. I used to do this to my boys' pants, and this was before I had great software. I have 5 sons. They all had lots and lots of jeans that ended up at all their friends' houses. So I used to embroider their name on the waistband of their jeans where their belt would cover it. But I didn't want it to be huge so they wouldn't wear the pants. So what I would have done is I would stitch it out in a run, very small. It would have Jake or Noah or Josh or Caleb would have their name on them. And that way, and I would do it tone on tone, but I could always identify who had my kids' jeans. And so you can do that. I used to always personalize their boxer shorts, made all their boxer shorts, and I would put their name on the leg of their boxer shorts, or the girlfriends would take off with them. So I'm telling you, personalizing can have a great time. Think about cardstock. Now here's a good one. I'm doing cardstock for little recipes to give out for the holidays. Put a little recipe on a cardstock and put that mix in a nice little cloth bag you've made and clip it on. What am I going to use? I'm going to come in here and I might do something creative in here. Do it round. I'm going to come in and type in can you believe I can't spell cocoa today? Okay, I'm going to put that in. I might want to put Cocoa by Kathi. Okay, I can apply that. Now I'm going to come in here though, and I'm going to look. I want one of my nice little one of my nice little run alphabets. So we're going to look at one of our good runs. So we'll come on down. Let's try some line alphabet right here. Apply. Now I'm going to come in here, change this, change my, and I can work this till I like how it is, till it's perfect. But now I can stitch this on cardstock and not worry about it punching it out. Put a little recipe on that cardstock. Do a gift card. Do all of your gift tags. Personalize your gift tags. You can make a whole set. I just fill up the hoop with cardstock, have it stitch the outline around it, and how easy would that be? Let's just do a quick. What if I wanted to make a tag for my gift bags? Okay, I'm gonna use a heart. So there's a heart. So the first thing I'm going to do is do a run stitch around the edge of this heart. I've clicked once on my run. I'm going to come in here and do this at about a 3.5. That's going to be my outline stitch. Now I can come in and put any text in here that I want. Go ahead and stitch that out, and now you can perforate it or cut it out right along that run stitch line, and you have a beautiful little gift card to go on your gifts. Add a little circle here. Sorry, let me get a circle from my shapes, my regular shapes, right here. Turn that into a little run stitch as well. Now you can run a ribbon through there and tie it on. Lots of fun and easy to personalize for your goodies. Now I think we're getting close to time for our webinar to be over. DJ, did we have any outstanding questions that didn't get answered, or I went too fast on something that somebody needed to know?
There have been a lot of questions come through, and I've seen them answer a lot of those questions. I can't think of anything that is like right here.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure there wasn't something major that I said that 57 people asked the same question. So if we're good, we're good.
Yep,
All righty, well, okay, then I'm just going to, I've got about 5 more minutes, so I'm going to use them up. Is that okay?
Yep.
He's my controller today. I control Walt, DJ controls me. All right, a couple of other things I want to point out in our alphabets and everything going on. I'm just going to go ahead and grab our regular, because I do want to just make sure everybody understands the properties box, since we are talking so much. Oh, something I did miss that we do want to talk about definitely. Floriani, and I'm going to change this alphabet to another alphabet. We'll use, there we go, and I don't want it on. Okay, something I did not mention, and I apologize, is caps. Caps are a big deal. If you're going to stitch on a cap, or anything that has multiple layers, if you're going to do caps, you're going to do, let's say, a heavy jacket, or maybe you're going to do a windbreaker that's got a lining, it's very important to realize there is a way it needs to stitch out for it not to look like you personalized it at home. We want it to look like it is definitely a professional job. I want to point you up here. In our properties, we have text extras. Okay, this is an important little tab. Now I'm going to click on here, and the first thing that I want to point out that is so important is the sew sequence. Left to right, right to left, or center out. When you're going to stitch a cap is on a curved frame, and you are not going to smash a hat down flat on a flat frame and get a cap that doesn't look like you did it at home. Caps need to be in a cap frame. They need to be done on a machine that is geared to doing caps, such as a 6-needle, a 10-needle. I just heard about a brand new machine that just came out that is going to do caps, so I'm really excited. And to do those, they need to be a curve if you stitch on a cap and you go right to left or left to right, it's going to push the whole time, and eventually you're going to have puckers in that. You're going to have catching a blip of fabric up in between two letters. Same thing if you're doing a jacket, a heavy jacket. If you're doing something with multiple layers, it's going to push, and the closer you get to the end, the more puckers you get. So you want this to stitch from center out. Watch how it does. There is my R. Now it's going to push away from the lettering. Now it's going to push away from the lettering in that direction. Always push center out. That is very, very important. So note when you do caps to make sure that you've got that center out thing going, that you understand that. So that is those text extras. Now I always lock, I always trim. That's me. Now let's look, again, I already showed you on the fills where I could change the fill in these letters if they're oversized. So you can change those fills. Underlay. Now the program picks the best underlay for what you're doing. Sometimes you know that you're doing something a little different. For instance, if I was going to put this on a knit cap, I've got a new baby and I'm going to put the baby's name on that knit cap. I'm also going to have contour besides parallel. I want it to also contour these letters, so if it starts to pull in, it's going to stop where it pulls. And if it's knit, I'm always going to add the zigzag. So I can come in here and you can do some picking around if you need to, if you know what you're doing. If you don't, no problem. Go through Floriani's Saved as Sew feature. Push and pull, again, this is a more advanced feature that you've got that you can work in here with your lettering. And transform is always to change the size. So that explains how to do caps that I skipped, and I apologize. And I did want to point out one other thing, and I know I've run out of time, but I'm going to point it out anyway. I want to talk to you real quick about name drop. Because if you are going to do, let's say you're going to do a bunch of shirts for a reunion, if you're going to do name drop, I'm going to go ahead and put my name in here. I'm just going to pick another alphabet, and I'm going to apply, and I'm going to come here to name drop. Now with name drop, you can see my name is in here, Kathi. I'm using the Pamela font. My height is 0.79. Well, I might need to add, because I'm also going to do George's shirt. Only George may not want Pamela. Pamela may not be his type font. So I'm going to click on Pamela, and I'm going to pick him. He's going to have plain print, and I'm going to make his size a little different too. I'm going to make his 0.5. Okay, I can add, and I can preview this as well. You can preview what these are going to look like by putting them in there. Now I can also add a design, and it will preview it with my design every time. So if I had a little design and I was going to take the grandkids to the zoo, I'm going to put in a design. I'm going to come over here to my library. I'm just going to see if I've got something in one of these. It's real easy to find, of course, because let's see here. There we go. Well, we're using a koala today. Okay, I've got this koala, and I've got grandkids. So I'm going to come in here to this text, and I'm using the circle text, and I'm going to put Brad Quinn. Okay, there's Brad Quinn, and I'm going to apply Brad Quinn here. Okay, I'm going to make it where I like it, where it's just perfect for me. Let's fit this to screen. Okay, now I'm going to go into name drop, and I'm going to add Nathan. Okay, and on the lower text it's going to stay Quinn, and I'm going to add Jocelyn. Okay, and I can preview these. So now let's preview Jocelyn. There's Jocelyn Quinn. Let's preview Nathan Quinn. How cool is this? Adding it with your name drop, you can come in here and you can do a whole series of shirts, designs, where you've got the same design and all you're doing is changing the text. Then we're going to save these. I can tell them to open all files, so it'll open as design 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, put them all on a jump drive, go to my machine. I could tell it don't open them, just save them, or just open the first file. I'm just going to do one for right now. So you have this option as well. I could change the height of each one, I could put each one in a different font, and obviously I can change the text on each one. So I think that probably does it for our webinar today. I want to thank everybody for coming to our webinar. I hope you enjoyed, and I look forward to seeing you at our next webinar. You there,